In this video, I'm going to be breaking down for you the hidden secret that I stumbled upon in my first year ever of podcasting. And it was actually in that first year ever that I made over $200,000 just from podcasting. Now, this is what you are going to learn in this video. The how and actually the psychology behind why content honey traps work, and the 4 content honey trap tools that high ticket coaches and consultants just like you can use for your podcast today. So stick around to find out exactly how I use these strategies to make over $200,000 in my first year podcasting. If you are a high ticket coach or consultant looking for the best advice on how to monetize your podcast with consistent high ticket clients, then subscribe to my channel and hit the bell to be notified whenever I post a new video. My name is Deidre Shen. I am the CEO and co-founder of Capshow and the Podcast to Profit Accelerator. I have been working with high ticket coaches and consultants who have cumulatively banked over $1.6 million in sales through podcasting. I myself, I've done over $200,000 in just my first year podcasting because I stumbled upon this little known secret. Let me tell you about this strategy that I stumbled upon called content honey traps and exactly what they are. Now, I want to deep dive a little bit into how this strategy actually works in content honey traps. So I thought to start, because I don't want to be, we could be literally here all week recording this. So let's not do that. Let's not do that. We're going to definitely over the next few episodes, talk more and more about this. But I thought today we should at least give a little bit of a summary, a little bit of flavor on what content honey traps are and what they could look like. So to start, I thought I would give you a little bit of insight into the way that I think about content honey traps. So as you know, or you should hopefully know by now, the content honey traps itself, it's a system designed to compel your dreamiest clients, your high ticket clients, to follow you through your front end funnel. Okay, it's from your social media to your podcast to your conversion event to the sale. Let's make that moolah.
Honey traps everywhere.
Honey traps everywhere. Okay, and that's great. It's easy to say, but it's like how?
What? How? Exactly.
And so, okay, I thought, and it's so, what I love about talking about this is because, podcasters, everyone listening, that the core of a good podcast is that you provide 2 things, generally. A really, really great story and really great value.
Yes.
Right? Pretty much every podcast that I've listened to have these 2 things. And if you don't, definitely come to the podcast, actually, because I will take you through.
It's your first sign you need this podcast.
Exactly. So the way that I think about this is almost like the decision tree that goes through my mind is if I record a podcast episode and there was like this great story that was told either from myself or from a guest or someone where I was like, there's this unbelievable thing that happened, or there's this super great cliffhanger because I heard that and I was like, oh my gosh, what happens next?
Yes.
Great content honey traps to use. Okay, this is where we then go into what we call our story-based content honey traps.
Yes.
Now, if you recorded a podcast episode and the story was great because obviously but you're like there wasn't anything super compelling in there. There wasn't something that was like, oh my gosh, this is unbelievable. Then we want to go into what we call our tips-based content honey traps, which is really about how you you compel people, your audience, based on the value that you provided in that episode. Okay, so that's kind of like overall the how I think about which content honey traps am I going to be using? So I thought for this episode, that we would start with story-based content honey traps. And we do have 4 mental models in each. So 4 mental models in our story-based content honey traps and 4 mental models in our tips-based content honey traps.
Yes.
Today I thought, let's start with our story-based ones, and then in the next episode we can talk about our tips-based ones.
Absolutely.
Sound good? Awesome. So, Bonner, do you want to kick us off with those 4 mental models?
Yeah, absolutely. So these are definitely my favorite because, I love some drama. I think everyone loves some drama. But like you said, the stories are really important because what they do is they evoke emotion. And we all know, or maybe we don't, and we should know, that emotion is actually what drives action. So these tools, like you said, we've got 4 different ones, and what we did is, I guess, we really tried to crawl into that brain of yours.
You don't want to be in my brain.
Yeah, and I was like, I don't need to be here as long as for the shortest amount of time possible. Let's take the goods and go, you know.
Yeah.
And what this is really pulling out, teasing out from your brain, how you tell stories and what are those bits that we think, you know, makes it for a really compelling story. So there are 4 main honey trap tools that are all, each of them have a slightly different trigger in terms of what makes that story compelling. So the first one is what we call the paradox. The paradox is really about how do you contrast a really big result that you, in this story, yourself, or you know, your guest, right? If you have them on the podcast with you, you contrast that with a very surprising or unbelievable fact, right? And the contrast creates intrigue because people are like, how did Deirdre, you know, who by her own admission, completely, you know, talentless in the podcasting realm with no money to buy fancy equipment, how was she able to generate $200,000 from her podcast? Huge result, right? Immediate intrigue. And that's what you use. That's when you have that, you know, that huge result and an unbelievable fact, you can actually intrigue them. So in that case, you would use the paradox tool. So this is one of our favorites.
Yeah, which you may or may not have noticed that I used for this episode.
We eat our own dog food. We totally believe in this. Okay, now the second one, which I know you've alluded to as well, is what we call the cliffhanger. So we all know what cliffhangers from back in the soap opera days, right through to every single movie, basically.
I swear I probably watched The Bold, the Beautiful for like years, like
every day.
I was like, I have to find out what did Ridge. Is he going to choose Taylor or Brooke? Like, what is going to happen?
1,000th time.
I know.
But we still need to know which one is going to be.
Stephanie and Eric got to get back together. Oh my gosh, I needed to know.
Or is he going to marry Brooke? You know, too many things.
Yeah.
Regardless, what we're doing is we're creating temptation for our audience. We're creating temptation because whether it's in our guest story or our own story, let's pick the most dramatic moment, right? So that time that your trusted store manager, you found out that, you know, hundreds of thousands of dollars have been stolen from you across the course of how many ever years. Huge cliffhanger. I'm like, what happens next? What do you mean? Don't leave me hanging on this, right? So something, if again, you know, there's something in the story that is, you really want to tempt your audience. So we use the cliffhanger tool for when something like that has happened and you want to create a compulsion for them to want to tune in to find out what happened next. So that is the second content honey trap tool when it comes to story-based. The third one, I love this one too. It's called the big reveal. Okay. So now this is what you want to use when either in your story or your guest story, there has been some sort of unexpected twist, right? So in doing that, in hinting at that unexpected twist with the big reveal tool, you're going to really lure your audience in because they're like, oh, you know, there is that intrigue again, you know, You're not giving away anything, but you're kind of hinting at this, something that's completely, you know. So this one, I think, is kind of a nuanced one, but works really well. So one kind of funny thing that happened in our journey, which we didn't go into today, was there was a time when we were, we took on a very unconventional, very unconventional vocation. That was, you know, and it was one of my favorite times of us together. So you just kind of, you know, being corporate ex-bankers had always been in this very white collar world. We kind of dove into a very different vocation. So
again, let's put this into context. We had, like, clock was ticking.
The clock was ticking. We were like, I wouldn't say desperate, but we were, you know, we were like open. We
had to do what we had to do.
We had to do what we had to do. This, my friends, is what's happening with the big reveal right now, where you just kind of lure your audience in. So that's I do like that one as well. And finally, we have... Should
we give it to our audience?
Oh, we want to reveal.
Do we want to reveal that we became delivery drivers? Yes, we did.
I'm sure there were other vocations on people's minds as they were listening to that. That's right. We were
full kitted out with, like, the glove. We had the gloves that would help us, you know, lift boxes and stuff.
Yeah, we didn't realize how rough that was on your hands. We'd never done that before.
Exactly.
But also we hadn't driven on that side of the road before. So this was a whole story. And you know what? We will share our Instagram account in the show notes.
Oh my gosh, we should. Yes, definitely. You've got to check out the show notes, you guys. We'll leave photos. Really, yeah, it is going to be, it was pretty epic.
It's pretty funny. It's pretty funny. Okay, so that's the big reveal. And the fourth and final story-based content honey trap is what we call the sharer. So here what we're doing is we're giving away the ending. So again, in your story or your guest story, we give away the ending of something, remarkable, fun, funny, crazy, dramatic that happened. But what you want to do is you want to whet your audience's appetite for details of how we got there. So in one of the stories we told on this episode where you're like, Deidre made Bonner cry.
Which I didn't even realize.
Yeah, technically that happened. That's the ending.
Yeah.
But how did we get there?
Yes.
Tune in to find out. So the share is another good one because again, usually every story has a good arc. There are circumstances that lead to that, and you tell it anyway. So that's how you basically get your audience to be listening. So those are the 4 story-based content honey trap.
Amazing. So what we'll do is we'll do up like a quick cheat sheet on those, and you can grab them from the show notes if you want to head over there. We'll have a link that you can and then obviously access it from there. And go get it, you guys, and go and laugh at our exploits in the show notes as well when we were delivery van drivers and the 18 suitcases that we had carted over across the world. Let me know in the comments if you are currently using any of these content honey trap mental models. And if you want to hear the full story behind how I actually created content honey traps, making over 200K in my first year podcasting, then listen to episode 1 of the Grow My Podcast show. I'm going to leave that link below. And if you want to learn the full strategy behind using your podcast to produce high ticket clients each month, multiple high ticket clients each month, without needing a large following or spending any money on ads, then sign up for my on-demand podcast. That link is below.